vitamin A, E and K, what is remaining between A, E and K? Vitamin D. So let us fill up the blanks with vitamin D, right? So what does vitamin D do and what is vitamin D? In case of any vitamins or minerals, you must study like these vitamins. You must study under these headings like the name, the chemistry, the sources, the biochemical function, and deficiency or excess manifestation. কি বললাম আমরা কি পড়বো? তার নাম পড়বো, কেমিস্ট্রি পড়বো, সোর্সেস পড়বো, কোন খাবারে পাওয়া যায়, নরমাল লেভেল কত পড়বো, biochemical function পড়বো, বডিতে what is the function in the body, আর পড়বো deficiency manifestation, কম হয়ে গেলে কি হয় শরীরে, আর পড়বো excess manifestation, যদি বেশি হয়ে যায় তাহলে কি হবে। Vitamin D is called calcitriol. The vitamin D what is required in the the animal body is called calcitriol. It has got two forms, D2 and D3. The D2 form is found in plant. The D3 is found in animals. What are we? Animals. So what do we need? Which form we need? Vitamin D? 3 or 2? If we are animals, then what form do we need? D2 or D3? Follow? D2 or D3? Which one? D3. Right? Then what is the role of D2? D2 we get from plant sources. The raw material for vitamin D biosynthesis is cholesterol in animals. But plants, they do not have cholesterol. They have a similar product called ergosterol. So the compound produced from ergosterol is called D2. It has almost same function. It has almost same function as vitamin D3, but problem is it cannot be produced in our body, number one, and it cannot be regulated by our system. So if we get B2 from plant, fine, it will work for some time, but very soon it will turn down, because of the normal turnover process. But if it is more, we cannot regulate. If it is less, we cannot regulate. Whereas D3, we can increase or decrease the synthesis in our body and we can regulate. This is the difference. Okay? This is D2 and D3, two differences. Fine. Now sources. Find out, is there any source which is very difficult to achieve or difficult to procure? That? Is there any source, such source? No. Yes. Which one is very difficult to procure? No. Right? But still, if you find that vitamin D is the most deficient vitamin among the patients, among the young adults, among the old adults, among the aged people, means all sex of the ages are affected by deficiency of vitamin D. Why is this called sunshine vitamin? Why? Because the sunlight helps in the biosynthesis, everything is there. Every tissue has got cholesterol, from cholesterol we can synthesize, just exposure to sunlight, we can synthesize vitamin D. But are we giving the exposure to sunlight? No. In urban lifestyle, we are devoid of exposure to sunlight. We are devoid of exposure to sunlight. Why do we need the sunlight to be exposed? Only this portion is sufficient. Okay? There are many factors which actually help in vitamin D synthesis naturally. Since it is absent, since we do not go into sunlight, we do not play outdoor games anymore, so we all suffer from vitamin D deficiency. Food fortification. This is one of the important source when you write in community medicine. Among the people who are staying in the urban slums, they might suffer from vitamin D deficiency. Why? Because most of the slums are very congested. They do not get proper sunlight. So throughout their life, they work in a very small closed space for their living, and they do not get, they are not exposed to sunlight. So they suffer from vitamin D deficiency. So they should be given vitamin D fortified food supplements. Say for example, Cadbury's, chocolate, milk products, or edible oil. See, such and such edible oil is rich in vitamin A and D. This kind of advertisement you see. But remember, usually, normally, any edible oil, if it is naturally procured, it must contain vitamin A and D and E and K. Then why do we need to fortify? Because most of the oils we consume are artificially prepared. Instead of making artificial oil, if we consume naturally procured oil, then we do not need this fortification. But if we do so, then the cost of the oil will increase and people cannot survive. Economic purposes are there to serve. Someone has to make some profit, someone has to make some gain over this. So many news are there. Right? That is why. So naturally occurring oil need not to be fortified, whereas we use only artificially prepared oil. That's why we need fortification. Now, exposure to sunlight. Exposure to sunlight. How long and for what purposes? What are the factors for vitamin D biosynthesis? What are the factors that affect? Important. Whenever you find a vitamin D deficient subject or patient or person, either of these might match with their from the factors responsible for vitamin D deficiency. Okay, so each one we will see slowly. Species means not human and apes. Among the human, are we different? Me and Tom Cruise, Will Smith, are we different? Jackie Chan? So we are different species. Within the species, same species, but we are different ethnic groups. So different ethnic groups behave differently towards the sunlight exposure. Why? Mostly because of the skin tone. So the person who are very dark, like Will Smith, right? Jennifer Lopez. We call them blacks, correct? So their skin is full of pigment. Again, on the other hand, if you go take say Robert De Niro, or you say Russell Crowe, or you say Michael Phelps, or Angelina Jolie, they are all whites. So their skin is devoid of pigment. So that's why they are white. Now, which one will be preferred to produce more vitamin D if given sunlight exposure? What do you think? Which one? Dark one? No. Opposite. Dark one it requires more time of exposure to produce same amount of vitamin D that is produced in the white. Because the darker pigmentation will not allow the sunlight to go inside the deep inside the skin, where actual the 7-dehydrocholesterol, the precursor of the vitamin D, is located. Right? Because their skin pigmentation is high, they require more sunlight exposure. Now you can relate in this way. Where do you find these black people? Mostly near the central line, equator. So their light exposure is more. Mostly the people are black because they spend more time in sunlight. That's why they need more protection from sunlight. That's why they are given more. Then why no population present in desert area are black? You find out any population staying in the desert which is very hot, no rain, but they are not black, because the pigmentation not only depends on sunlight exposure, it also depends on humidity. In the equator is the most humid area, so they perspire. Remember, pigs sweat, human perspire. So due to perspiration, they produce more melanin. Whereas in the desert area, it is dry, they do not perspire, so their skin becomes lighter. Yeah? Fine. Now, next we come to skin, thickness and pigment melanin. Melanin already I have discussed. Thickness, thin skin, thick skin. Which one is helpful for synthesis of vitamin D? Thin skin. Thick skin, where do you find thick skin? The skin is very thick, then no sunlight will penetrate. Usually young adults have very thick skin. Our skins, your skin is thicker than mine. My grandfather's, your grandfather's skin is very thin. Why? Because hypodermal fat is mostly depleted. If not, they are very healthy and maintains a good lifestyle. Most of the old age people, they have very thin skin due to depletion of the hypodermal fat. Good. So they produce rather less. Why? Because there is no hypodermal fat. For synthesis of vitamin D, we require thin skin but hypodermal fat. Young children, their skin is very thin. Now your skin is very thick, but you have hypodermal fat at this age. Slowly, it will gradually, when you reach the age of 60, 65, 70, that hypodermal fat will start depleting. Then your skin will become thin, but due to absence of hypodermal fat, production will be less. Yeah? Time of the day and season. Winter or summer, which one is preferable? Obviously summer. Summer will give 10 minutes of exposure in summer is equivalent to half an hour exposure in winter. Fine? Time, what time? I give you 3 times, 8:30 AM, 12:20 PM and 4:30 PM. 8:30 AM, highest. 12:20 PM, lowest. Suppose a person is suffering from vitamin D deficiency, if you ask him to stand in the sunlight, in the midday, then you will not get benefited. Okay? Because that sunlight will not produce, whether it will produce blister. Latitude. Why the Tom Cruise is whiter than me? Because he was born at the higher latitude. Most of the European and Scandinavian countries are located at the higher latitude. Correct? Mostly they are around 55 to 65 degree north. South there is only one, Australia. Most of the Europeans are in northern hemisphere, okay, between 55 and 65 degree. You see, people are in, then in people are in Antarctica, Eskimos, they are black or white? Again, they become white, black. Why? Can anyone explain why the Eskimos are blacker, darker than the Europeans, whereas they are at the highest latitude, almost 89, 85 latitude degree. What happens in poles? They are exposed to sun for 6 months. If Tom Cruise is exposed to sunlight for 6 months, he would have been darker than now. That's why Eskimos have darker pigmentation, because those poles are exposed to sunlight 6 months together. 6 months day, 6 months night. You have to see only watch. You cannot see sky. Whole 6 months will be day, another 6 months will be night. Now, you have answer for everything, don't worry. Age, already I have told, the younger age produce more, older age produce less. So your grandfather, grandparents might require supplementation. If you let them sit in the sun for longer period, then if suppose you produced some amount of vitamin D due to exposure of 10 minutes, your grandfather will require more than half an hour to produce the same amount. Use of what is this? What is sunscreen? Anyone? Bolo? সানস্ক্রিন কখনো দেখেছো? কেমন দেখতে হয়? সবুজ রঙ না নীল রঙের, কি রঙ হয়? হ্যাঁ, সানস্ক্রিন দেখতে কেমন? সবুজ রঙের না নীল রঙের? সাদা রঙের? কি পর্দার মতন থাকে নাকি? এরকম স্ক্রিন? এরকম স্ক্রিন থাকে? কি থাকে? সানস্ক্রিন কি? কে দেখেছো সানস্ক্রিন কে ব্যবহার করেছো বলো? What is sunscreen? বল? It's like a cosmetics. It is available in pouch, tube. You roll it down and you get like a cream and then you apply. That is called sunscreen, not cream. It is not cream. It is screen. Okay? It is sunscreen. Now, when you are purchasing sunscreen, you must see something in the label. SPF. Suppose you are playing a cricket match whole day in the sunlight, and your sister, she is going to university for regular classes. What SPF factor would you choose for yourself and your sister? You have available, one is 5 SPF, another is 25 SPF. Which one you will buy for yourself? Which one you will buy for your sister? Yes? Bolo? Anyone? বল, তোরা বল। ওই হাত তুললো বলে ওটাকে ডাক, এই পাশেরটাকে। এই মেয়ে, ওরে তোকে রে বাবা, চশমা পড়া, এই 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 তোর পাশে। হ্যাঁ, দাঁড়া, বল। তুই ক্রিকেট খেলতে যাচ্ছিস মনে কর, তুই কত নিবি এসপিএফ? 25 নিবি, আর তোর বোনের জন্য 5। কেন? Sit down. Sit down. What do you think? In which country women use more cosmetics, India or China? although India is the largest consumer of Fair and Lovely, sorry, now it's Fair and, no, not Fair and, what is that? Healthy and Lovely, something it changed. Fine. So anyway, product is same, name has changed. We are using, because our society is so tuned that our parents are black, but our wives should be white. We see all the actresses are white, all the actors are black. So we have a lust for the white skin. Anyway, so these Chinese people are white or black? White. Then why do they use this sunscreen? They are the maximum user of sunscreen, Chinese people. Because most of the area of the China are like plain, where a lot of sunlight they receive. Just like India, central India. Very hot. Fine. So there they started using sunscreen. SPF 25, 35, 40, 50, because more you get protection, less you have sunburns, because their skin is devoid of pigment. There is no protection, natural protection. So they get, if they are exposed to sunlight, slowly either they will become dark or they will have sunburn. So they started using. For 10 to 15 years like that, around in 1990s, they found that every second woman are suffering from fracture. Why? Because the use of heavy SPF containing sunscreen are decreasing vitamin D synthesis. So then they changed, number one. Number two, the SPF factor, high SPF factor, not only decreases the vitamin D synthesis, but also it causes dehydration of the skin, which leads to early wrinkle formation, means aging. To avoid that, nowadays you might find in some brands, they use moisturizer along with those screens. Okay? So we must use moisturizer along with very, very low SPF. And if you are moderately dark, please do not use any sunscreen. If you have only skin reactions in sunlight, you can use. Otherwise, yes, use any cloth, any umbrella, anything. Nothing doing. If you are playing for some long hours in the sun, then you can use. But limited, with low SPF factor. We do not need that much as high SPF factor. Absorption requires what? Uninterrupted supply of bile. That means in case of obstructive jaundice, there will be no absorption of none of the fat soluble vitamin. Correct? If we do not get bile salts, we cannot absorb any of the fat soluble vitamins, just like vitamin A, E and K. Mainly in duodenum, jejunum and ileum, efficiency about 50%, means if you give 100 microgram, only 50 microgram will be absorbed. Can it be stored in the liver? Yes, it can be stored in the liver. It is stored in which liver? All animals' liver. So if we take the organ meat, then we can get vitamin D. They are transported, binds to vitamin D binding protein DBP made by liver. Other metabolites like lumisterol, tachysterol and precalciferol are sloughed off, means get rid of, along with the normal sloughing of epithelial cells of the gut. Clear? Just like excretion of iron or turnover of skin. transport by vitamin D binding protein. Now we come to the synthesis. The synthesis has got involvement of three organs. What are those? Skin, liver, kidney. Skin, liver, kidney. Which vitamin requires three organs to synthesize? This is the question. Vitamin D. Skin, liver, kidney. Skin from 7-deato cholesterol to cholecalciferol. Cholecalciferol to 25. This reaction takes place in liver. In the liver, it is hydrolyzed at 25 position. In the kidney, it is hydrolyzed at 1 position. So liver has got enzyme called 25 hydroxylase and kidney has 1 alpha hydroxylase. So if a person suffer from kidney failure, kidney disease, can he suffer from vitamin deficiency? Because the final step of the synthesis of vitamin D takes place in kidney. If the kidney is not functioning well, kidney has different functions. See, for example, it has function for filtration, it has function for synthesis. If the synthetic function is defective, then they cannot synthesize 1 alpha hydroxylase, and in that case, there will be deficiency of vitamin D. Correct? You have to supply vitamin D from outside through diet. খাবারের সঙ্গে মিশিয়ে খাওয়াতে হবে। অ্যাক্টিভ ফর্ম অফ ভিটামিনকে বলা হয় ক্যালসিট্রায়ল। সেখানে 1 আছে, 25 আছে, তাহলে দুটো হলো। ট্রায়ল মানে 3টে না OH, আরেকটা OH কোথায় আছে? Calcitriol means 3 hydroxyl group, correct? But here we are seeing 1,25 dihydroxycholecalciferol, which is also called calcitriol. Can anyone tell me where is the third hydroxyl group? Why it is called calcitriol? হ্যাঁ, আরেকটা হাইড্রোক্সিল কোথায় আছে? কে বলতে পারবে? কোথায়? পজিশন বলো। এটা আমি 125 বললাম। Recall the structure of cholesterol. Where do you find the hydroxyl group? In 3 position. It is produced from cholesterol. So the third position hydroxyl group is there. That's why it is called calcitriol. Only 1 and 25 are added afterwards. Correct? Now we come to a little more complication of this thing. More complicated part. What is that? Forget about liver. Liver is easy. Large tissue. Problem with kidney. The kidney not only produce this 1 alpha hydroxylase, which is very, very crucial for biosynthesis of vitamin D3 or calcitriol, but it also produces another enzyme called 24 hydroxylase. Liver produces 25 hydroxylase. Kidney produces 1 alpha hydroxylase and 24 hydroxylase. So, in presence of 24 hydroxylase, some amount of vitamin D will be synthesized in the form of 24,25 dihydroxycholecalciferol. Again, this is calcitriol. Calcitriol means 3 hydroxyl groups should be there. So, in 125, the positions are 1, 3, 25. In 24,25 dihydroxycholecalciferol is positions are 3, 24, 25, but both are calcitriol. Correct? Now this D3, this is also called D3. Why? This has got 3 hydroxyl group. Correct? This D3 is measured in the laboratory. Which one? 24,25 D3 is measured in laboratory. Why? Because we think if we measure D3 125, it is very, very costly and very difficult to measure. Whereas 24,25 easier to measure. 125 cholecalciferol D3, if you want to measure from blood, you require radioimmunoassay, which is very dangerous. Whereas 24-25 D3 we can measure by simple ELISA. Right? So that is why 24-25 D3 we measure, but we write D3 in the prescription. But we measure not 125, which is functionally active. We measure rather less amount produced by the kidney. 24, note it down. This is very, very crucial point. This is something which nobody will tell you, and it will take long time for you to understand unless you come in this particular field. Correct? So the problem is, if the person is exposed to sunlight, like in country of India, in traveling in buses and trams, public transport and all, exposed to sunlight, still they are having vitamin deficiency. So are they really deficient in vitamin D? How do we know? We are measuring vitamin D3, but we are not measuring 125. We are measuring what? 24-25. And what we are giving supplementation? 125. So what is it? It's a scope for मैंने सोचा एक मौका है मार दो चौका. That means make it a lot of work should be done in this field to find out what is correct in coming days. Okay? So like this you must see when you are seeing any report. If you need to earn more, you see the report in that way. If you need not to earn more, you see the report in that other way. Now, the most important question from this chapter, probably, if not a synthesis, a deficiency and manifestation, there are two parts. This part we will teach later during calcium metabolism. We will skip to deficiency manifestation. Okay? You can just take a note of this. Now, how this story is about how vitamin D helps in absorption of calcium. How vitamin D helps in absorption of calcium. Take a photograph of this, or any damn book will give the photograph. What is it? Inside the mucosal cell of intestine, there is a protein called calbindin. The calbindin protein is synthesized from calbindin gene. The vitamin D is a fat soluble vitamin which function as a hormone also. Why? Group 1 and group 2 hormone. Which hormone can enter the cell directly? Group 1, steroid hormones, because they are fat soluble. So vitamin D, like steroid hormone, can enter the cell directly. Inside the cell, it binds with VDR. What is VDR? Vitamin D receptor. Where do you find it? In association with DNA. That VDR complex means vitamin D plus vitamin D receptor. They combine, they form VDR vitamin D complex. That complex sits on DNA, brings some conformational changes, which opens up the gene for calbindin, for synthesis of calbindin mRNA. When calbindin mRNA is synthesized, calbindin protein is synthesized. So calbindin, what does it do? It holds free calcium inside the cell. So whatever calcium is absorbed from the gut, if it is not trapped by calbindin, then it will again come out, or it will not enter anymore. Correct? So the binding of calbindin with the calcium is the key factor to make or to produce a gradient for calcium to enter into the mucosal cell. If calbindin is not there, free calbindin to bind free calcium is not there, no calcium will be absorbed. So no gradient, no calcium will enter. If calbindin is there, now who will decide calbindin will be there or not? Vitamin D. And who will decide vitamin D will be there or not? The serum calcium level. If the serum calcium level falls, it gives a trigger to parathormone. The parathormone or PTH hormone triggers the 1-alpha hydroxylase. It produces more and more vitamin D. The more and more vitamin D means more and more calbindin. More and more calbindin means more and more calcium absorption. Like this it happens. Clear? So this diagram shows you the entry of calcium, the role of calbindin, the role of vitamin D as hormone. One diagram, 3 answer. You must remember the questions also. Then only you can write the answer. Right? So 3 kind of question answer kora jete pare. 1 calcium absorption, 2 role of calbindin, and 3 vitamin D acts as a hormone. Explain this diagram. That's all. Metabolic function of calcium. Very, very difficult. Where do you find calcium? In blood, in bone, teeth. So bone is made up of calcium or protein? Which one? Bone first require what? First require protein. Calcium cannot be trapped alone. If alone calcium would have been responsible for synthesis of bone, then our blood would have been like bone. But no. Why blood doesn't become bone? Because blood does not contain collagen. Blood does not contain osteocalcin. These are the proteins which trap calcium to form bones. Calcium is present in bone and teeth in a particular discrete form. What is the name of the form? The hydroxyapatite of calcium phosphate. Write down. Hydroxyapatite of calcium phosphate, CH3PO4 whole twice, and comma XH2O, some amount of water of crystallization. It may vary. It may vary. Right. So hydroxyapatite of calcium phosphate. That is the chemical formula of bone or chemical composition of bone for calcium. Now to synthesize bone we require more other proteins also, like collagen. Number 1 protein is collagen, number 2 is osteocalcin. There are many proteins which require to trap those calcium, and where on the network of this protein calciums are deposited. Okay. Now 3 hormones act on this. Vitamin D increase the deposition. Correct? And how do you deposit it? Who will make the deposited form? And who will withdraw it? So we have 2 types of cells in bone. One is young bone cells, another is aged bone cells. The young bone cells are called osteoblasts, and the old bone cells are called osteoclasts. Osteoblast has got positive effect on bone formation. We call it mineralization. The opposite to mineralization bone is called bone resorption or demineralization. It is called bone resorption, means withdrawal of calcium from the bone. It is called bone resorption or demineralization of the bone. Now osteoblasts promote mineralization. How? More and more osteoblasts means there is a possibility that if calcium phosphate is present, then the calcium will be deposited in the bone. Osteoclasts, they do not reply to they respond to these hormones. Means withdrawal of calcium, they stop withdrawal, they also stop deposition. They do not show any positiveness towards anything. They are indifferent. Osteoblast, positive in 2 direction. Means what? Suppose you people are calcium phosphates, okay? Now you are sitting idly. the osteoblast will come and make you stand and get you agitated, right? So that anytime you can, if I tell you, go out, you just go out running. Anytime if I tell you, sit down, you will sit down. But osteoclast will not disturb you. Wherever you are, let it be. They will just sit like this. Came to Majama? Happy? They will not promote any movement in the calcium. That means osteoclasts are like dead cells. They will not either mineralization or demineralization. But presence of osteoblast may trigger both mineralization as well as demineralization. It will depend on your metabolic state, nutritional state, in which direction osteoblast will promote. Either whether it will promote mineralization or it will promote demineralization. Calcitonin, a hormone synthesized and secreted by the thyroid gland. Tonin means it reduces, it tones, it reduces calcium in the body. From where do they get calcium? From bones. They make the bones brittle. They make the bones brittle. In which condition you find overproduction of calcitonin? Ore ghum pacche re. Jolka. In which condition you find overproduction of calcitonin? Bolo. Stand up. Dari bolo. Hyperthyroidism, thyroid hormone berobe. T3, T4, TSH এগুলি বেরোবে। Sorry, T4 বেরোবে, FT4 বেরোবে। সেটা প্যারাথাইরয়েড গ্ল্যান্ড থেকে বেরোবে। কোন কন্ডিশনে থাইরয়েড গ্ল্যান্ড থেকে বেশি বেশি ক্যালসিটোনিন বেরোবে কে বলতে পারবে? কার্সিনোমা। Carcinoma. It can be glandular carcinoma, it can be ectopic carcinoma also. Some other tissue which would have been converted to thyroid gland, now it started producing calcitonin. So rapidly it will decrease. The opposite may also happen in carcinoma. What is that? Elevation of blood calcium level. Tremendous. Correct? So what will happen if there is calcitonin, high calcitonin, the blood calcium level will be elevated. Why? Because calcium is coming more and more from the bones. আচ্ছা, এইগুলি কতগুলো নন ক্লাসিক ফাংশন অফ ভিটামিন ডি, যেমন ভিটামিন ডি দেখবে ডিউরিং কোভিড পিরিয়ড দে সেড start taking vitamin D supplementation because it helps in the immune response, তাই না? ইমিউন রেসপন্সে হেল্প করে, ডায়াবেটিসে কন্ট্রোল করতে সাহায্য করে, ইত্যাদি ইত্যাদি। Deficiency, very easy. From class 7 or 6 onwards you have been studying. What is that? Rickets among the younger children and osteomalacia in the adults. Now I add another word called osteoporosis. So these are the deficiency manifestation. In young people, ricket. In older people, osteomalacia. What is the difference? Both are fracture prone. Both are fracture prone, low serum calcium level, correct? Low vitamin D level, but some radiological disparity you will see. If you take the photograph of the load-bearing bones, you will find the load-bearing bones of the leg are bent. Why? Because due to softness. The load-bearing bones can bend either inward or outward. If they bend in inward, it is called knock-knee condition. If they bend outward, they are called bow-leg condition. What else you can take? You can also take the picture of hand or the skull. সকালের ছবিটা আছে কিনা দেখি দাঁড়া। ও নেই। আচ্ছা, osteomalacia, it occurs in adults, but it is different from osteoporosis. Osteomalacia can be corrected by just giving vitamin D and calcium supplementation, but osteoporosis correction is not so easy. It might have multiple factors involved. It might have multiple factors involved. Okay. So one of the causes, aging may reduce synthesis of cholecalciferol, reduce activity of 1-alpha hydroxylase in response to PTH, and which is not mentioned here is that the effect of other steroid hormones. In the treatment of many diseases, we use steroids. Those steroids may act differently in different people, leading to osteoporosis. One of the very good example is using OCP, oral contraceptive pills, may lead to osteoporosis. C is called a lighter bone, soft bone in X-ray. See, you can see the network of collagen. If you take the photograph of the X-ray plate, and if you see the bone is see-through, means your networks are visible. That means the bone is soft. The deposition of calcium phosphate is less. It gives rise to that it is suffering from soft bone. So it is either small children, then it will be ricket, or older people, it will be osteomalacia. But it should be supported by low serum vitamin D and low serum calcium. Low serum calcium, both vitamin D and serum calcium, both should be low. Can we have toxicity? Yes, we can have toxicity. If suppose you are more concerned about your children, your young children, then you can give them more and more vitamin D containing substances. Baba, you must not have vitamin D deficiency. After some time, he will develop same symptoms like vitamin D deficiency due to vitamin D toxicity. The toxicity and deficiency, okay, ghum theke dak. The toxicity and deficiency manifestation are same. Correct? Both will present with pain in bone, loss of concentration during studies. So calcium toxicity may lead to calcinosis, formation of calcium calculi in the renal system. Correct? So that means formation of stone. Hypercalcemia may lead to cardiac arrest also. If you inject calcium salt, you will have cardiac arrest. Very easy to commit a murder. Huh? What is the normal range of serum calcium level? 9 to 11 milligram per 100 ml, milligram per DL. 9 to 11. If it goes below say 7, then dangerous. If it goes below 14 or 15, it is also dangerous. You might die. Such a narrow. But we find 23, 24 milligram per deciliter of calcium in some patient, and patient is still alive. You know in what condition? Why I am discussing all this? Because you will be asked picking these examples as question. ওই জীবনে বেরিয়ে যাবে তোমার এই কোশ্চেনগুলো যখন জিজ্ঞেস করা হবে তখন এই টার্মগুলো এইগুলি পিক করেই জিজ্ঞেস করা হবে। A patient comes with very high serum calcium level, 23.5 milligram per deciliter. What could be, this is such and such finding, what could be your diagnosis? That's what I am trying to explain. Otherwise, I can just go on reading this. Nothing will happen. Everything is given in your book or any damn YouTube material. What you take from this class is that the relationship of this subject, this chapter, whatever is being taught, to the clinical manifestation or clinical cases, where you will be asked, which will be asked from you, which you have to answer. Fine. So just think, don't sleep. not history class. Fine. So, that occurs due to carcinoma, due to certain carcinoma, correct? Fine. Just remember these effects: anorexia, nausea, renal failure, and death of the vitamin D toxicity. This part. Okay, that's all.